From NJ.com and the Star Ledger, welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights, with your hosts Steve Politi and Rutgers insiders Brian Fonseca and Pat Lanni. Let's start shopping.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Rant. It's been a while, and there's a reason for that. First off, I want to thank Keith Norton, America's premier voiceover guy and a former Rutgers lacrosse star, for recording another new introduction for us. We've needed a new introduction because we have a new guest. We have a new host here, I should say. James Kratch, as many of you already know, has left us to run his own website, Elite New York Sports. Check it out. And in his replacement, big shoes to fill, Pat and Lanni will join us on the podcast. Pat, first of all, welcome aboard. How you doing?
Oh, this is great, Steve. Long awaited to be on this podcast. It's such a hit in the newsroom. So obviously great times ahead. I
think when people think of career steps, they think, Pulitzer Prize and the Rutgers Rant podcast. I understand that, Chris. I think first of all, I should say this off the bat. This is an important lesson here that you will learn now, that whatever happens to us in real life when we're traveling with the team and we're on road trips, as Fonseca learned when we went to Dayton, he stayed in a Red Roof Inn that looked like, it was not suitable for human inhabitation. I had to mention on the podcast, we have a good story to begin with you. And this is why I think Rutgers fans are going to like you. So we're having lunch today, right, Brian? Just to set the scene, we're having an internal meeting to discuss our coverage, the three of us to map this out. And me and Brian at the table, and you show up like 2 minutes late and you're a little flustered. And we're like, Pat, what's wrong, right? It turned out you just happened to ding a car in the parking lot. No big deal. Like, it was one of those shopping cart little things, but you're like, oh man, I just can't believe I did that. But as we're walking out, you nodded in the direction of the car. I didn't even see the scratch, but you didn't even see this, but Brian and I did. You're getting out. The guy who gets into this car, I mean, he is decked head to toe in Seton Hall paraphernalia. He must have either been like Kevin Willard's like traveling secretary, or Shaheen Holloway's best friend, or whatever it was, or a recent Seton Hall graduate. That's the car that you dinged. I mean, I'm not exaggerating on this, am I, Brian? Did you see this?
I did. It was quite the sight. Yes, it was.
I mean, that's how you. I mean, great job. You're already, the Rutgers fans are already gonna love you more than the two of us.
I was gonna say, what could be more Rutgers or Jersey than that? Pretty much. Introduction,
right?
That's as good as it gets.
Right. That's the Jersey experience right there. But the guy didn't notice. I mean, the guy, he was saying,
listen, if Rutgers can have the luck that I'm having today this year, then they're going to be in for a great year. Bringing all sorts of good things to this podcast and the Rutgers fans out there. So
fantastic.
Automobiles, crashes, football, we got it all covered.
You got it all. So just to get some background, Pat, you are joining us from our high school staff. You covered high school. How long did you cover high school football for us?
10 years.
10 years, man. Right. Yeah. And you're also another Rutgers graduate. So we've got currently two Rutgers graduates on the podcast.
As much as I can say, yes, I am a Rutgers graduate for sure.
There you go. So
what will actually surprise real Rutgers people here is that I actually graduated from Cook College, which is shocking, which is the biology school. I had a co-degree in plant science and journalism. So really? That's my alternate path to Rutgers sports reporting.
Plant science?
Yeah.
I did. This is news to me. Did you know this, Fonseca?
I had no idea we had a botanist on the podcast.
Right. This
breaking news to me as well.
I mean, this seems like you could have applied that degree better, but you're here now, so it's too late for you. But welcome aboard. We're gonna go right to it. We're not gonna break you in anymore. It'll be fun. It'll be fun covering the team. We have a good time, and we got a lot to talk about, right? I mean, so we've been been away for about 2 months. Basically a ton of news. We had the end of spring practice, the spring game, retirement of a legendary coach, the announcement of an NIL collective, a baseball renaissance in Piscataway. But let's start with football, because I think that's something that's on people's mind year round now. I was on vacation for the spring game, fellas. You were both there. I'm going to give you what I heard as the near universal assessment from people, and you can tell me if it was true. nearly everyone I talked to who saw practice or saw the game thought that the offensive line was bigger and better. The skill positions even look better, but the quarterback situation is as muddled as ever. Fonseca, am I accurate in that analysis?
That all sounds right to me. The first thing you notice when you walk into a Rutgers practice to the team is just how much bigger the offensive line look. They look like a Big Ten offensive line group physically. As for if they're playing better, it's pretty much harder to play worse than they were last year, which Greg Shannon has mentioned many times. That was a deficiency in the team. So, yes, I would agree with that. I thought the skill positions looked great in the spring game. Two of the transfer wide receivers look great, Taj Harris and Sean Ryan. So if they can replicate that in the fall, because we've seen many a spring game all-star not produce in the fall, if they can repeat that in the fall, that'd be strong. And the quarterback situation, as always, classic Rutgers. Who knows with that? I guess we'll find out more in training camp. But yes, it's very, as you said, muddled.
I mean, I guess the analysis is that people are going to obviously expect to see Gavin Wimsatt start the opener. Pat, I mean, I don't get the sense that people inside the program expect that. I don't know where having watched him a little bit now, what did you see from him? And where do you think that thing stands now going into the summer?
I will say I've seen a lot of high school quarterbacks play over the years, right? 10 years of watching high school football. And to me, my assessment of Gavin Wimsatt was that he looked like a high school quarterback in that situation. I think he has unlimited potential. I think he's going to be a great quarterback at Rutgers. But I think the people that think that Wimsatt's going to be the starter day one need to take a step back and manage expectations a little bit. I think, like all football players, there's a big gap between high school and college football. And I think there's going to be some learning and growing experiences for Wimsatt. So I'm not expecting Gavin Wimsatt to start from day one.
People forget. It's funny. Like I was just told that, again, he's been at Rutgers now for 6 months, but he just attending his senior prom back in Kentucky. Someone told me, I don't know if that's true, but that's just amazing. There's just a good reminder of, that he's still an 18-year-old kid.
Right. He would be graduating high school about this week back in Kentucky, which is crazy.
Right. That said, he's been in the program for now he's got a full college year under his belt. He'll have a full training camp now for the first time. He certainly, we don't think there's any debate that he's got the physical skills are far better than Noah Vedral. Brian, are you with this, that you think that we're heading in a situation that we're Vedral just because of his ability to run the offense, because the coaches trust him, that he's going to be the guy to start the season?
I certainly think there's two schools of thought here, right? Where with, like you said, with the Vedral, you know what you're going to get. He's going to be safe. He's probably not going to lose you any games, but he's probably not going to win you any games either, right? He's not going to be a guy who's going to throw for 400 yards, make these crazy plays to beat defenses. So if you take Vedral, you're going on the safe side. Whereas Gavin, yes, he's a freshman. He's still learning a lot, but he has the ability to make plays that Noah Vedral just can't. So it depends on what school thought the staff wants to go with, whether they want to stay safe, have a high floor, low ceiling, or risk it, have a bit of a lower floor, but a much higher ceiling. I can't tell you which way they're going to roll now. I think there's still a long time between now and training camp. There's still a long time for Gavin to develop. And at that age, really, you develop exponentially. So I don't know. It depends really, like I said, which way they want to go here. I think Gavin gives them a chance to win more games, probably. I also think there's a chance that he loses you some games that Noah would not. So who knows? It's really whichever direction.
Pat, you had a new set of eyes on this for the first time. I mean, what was there anything that surprised you watching practice this spring that you didn't expect? Any position that stood out to you as something that was better or worse than you expected?
I think the running game was impressive in the spring game, and we talked about the offensive line and the improvement there. Obviously, should pave the way for improved rushing attack, but I think the under the radar guys that are going to be a tailback are certainly people to watch. Kyle Munungai out of Don Bosco looked really good in the spring, and even Al Shadi Salam could be a guy that has expanded his role, certainly. So I don't know. I was watching a lot of running backs. I thought they looked good. And obviously the transfers that came in from Syracuse and West Virginia, wide receiver, were very impressive in the spring game. So I think, like you said, the skill positions are definitely better. I wasn't sold on the defense in the spring game, but I think there it's going to be a lot of improvement to be done defensively, but skill positions certainly look better. Offensive line look better. And I think the rushing attack could really be a good thing for this team this year.
Yeah, that'll be interesting because obviously they're losing the guy he would say, and Isaiah Pacheco would be the best running back. But I've loved Monangai, a fan of him from the podcast last year. I certainly can believe he'd be the featured guy, smaller back, but certainly he runs, puts his head down, runs, gets through holes. So I'd love to see more of him out there. All right, let's move on to a different topic. Probably the biggest news in Piscataway this spring was that Vivian Stringer has announced her retirement. I don't think it's a surprising development, given everything that happened last year with her away from the team. In some ways, it's closure on what was a very awkward and uncomfortable situation for everyone involved in Piscataway. Brian, they did right by her. I mean, they're going to name the court in her honor. They wrote her a check for $900,000. I mean, what is your sense as to, how that resolution finally played out and what it means for the program going forward?
Yeah, like you said, it's been a messy few months for everybody, for players, for coaches, for administration, for everybody involved, just kind of not knowing what's going on. It's in the air. So just to have it done, have that chapter closed definitively is, I'm sure, relief for many people. Going forward, I don't know. This is a fascinating search. It's tough to know exactly which way Rutgers is going. They can go for the splash hire with experienced named coaches. They can go with the Steve Owens route and find under the radar winning mid-major coach. The direction and the coach they end up hiring will be a very telling decision on the direction, how they view this program. So it's going to be fascinating to see, but definitely I think everyone's relieved to kind of just get that end of the Vivian chapter over with, know definitively what's going to happen. And now the horizon is open for the future of the program.
And it is funny, only two coaches in the history of that program, and both of them are Hall of Famers. I know that Teresa Grent's gone as a player, but she still is a legendary figure for Rutgers women's basketball as a coach. Won them a national title, and that is a national title, even though it's not an NCAA title. So, I mean, this is an attractive job. I mean, the resources are there. The Pat, you had a story today, and I know a lot of that is based just on Stringer's salary, but no Big Ten school spent more on women's basketball than Rutgers. I mean, that's you might be muted. Yeah.
But 20% of that total spending, the $5 million that was spent on women's basketball and their operating budget, was spent on her salary alone, right? So 1/5 of the entire expenditures was just Stringer. So that'll be an interesting question that Pat Hobbs faces during this search. What kind of money will they be sending out to bring in the right coach? Will they actually be saving money in some ways? It'll be fascinating to follow. But the whole Stringer thing, to me, it feels like the classic New Jersey story that you would read on NJ.com of like teacher pensions and the way it played out down the stretch of like
sick days,
just people getting paid out and money pouring in from all angles, and people just doing things that are so unconventional. I'll put it that way.
Right. But
it
was really
finality
amazing.
to it. To bring some finality to it is certainly a good thing.
Well, and then she was. I mean, obviously, people didn't see that ending. I mean, Bill Clinton tweeting that congratulations. I mean, the congratulations. Certainly, the focus was on the 50-year career and all she did for women's sports, and not the last year. And I think that's fitting, and that's the way it had to be. But people close to the program, I think, certainly. Around Rutgers athletics, this is a day that had to happen, and it is an opportunity. I mean, that program should be a lot better than it's been. I mean, this is they've got a new facility now. They've got tradition. If they hire the right coach, someone who can recruit this area of the country, which Vivian Stringer didn't do, despite all her success, I think that program could be back pretty quickly in a position where you're in the NCAA tournament every year in the Sweet 16, and maybe not contending for national titles, but certainly in the conversation as one of the better programs out there. All right, let's move on to some other topics. The NIL collective. And this is a fascinating thing. We've got to give our friends from the other podcast, John Newman and Danny Breslauer, credit for this, because they were some of the spearheaded folks who got this thing done. It really is just an opportunity to for fans who want to participate in what is the biggest story in college sports without even a second one. Just the payment to the players, the money that's going in now in NIL deals to athletes has just completely transformed college recruiting. And I think what you're going to see now is at least this gets Rutgers in the game, Brian, right? I mean, this is like, if there's a moment now where a guy like, I don't know, Cliff Omori, someone who is in a position where they can help get him some cash to keep him from transferring to Tennessee or bigger programs, or the first big paycheck out there. I mean, how do you see this you did the story, how do you see this working and shaking out for Rutgers?
Yeah, to your point, Rutgers needed this just to be in the game. It feels like every other major collegiate athletic fan base had some sort of thing like this, so it's good. John Newman and those guys seem to be dedicated to not being involved in the recruiting aspect of it. Not like John Ruiz in Miami, who's paying, basketball recruits $400,000 in a car to show up. It seems like they're not getting involved in that side of things and just staying their lane as supporting current Rutgers athletes, which might be the smart thing to do, considering the NCAA is threatening to legislate the recruiting aspect, which who the hell knows how they're going to do it, considering there's a million loopholes to go around the thing. Johnny quarterback, I was gonna say Johnny football, I don't mean to imply Johnny Langan, but like Johnny quarterback or whatever.
Johnny Langan's got a deal. Wait, what's this?
No, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. But I mean, if there's anybody marketable at Rutgers, Johnny Langan's a guy, but that's another story for another day. But all right, let's call I don't know, some other guy, John Smith. He's a quarterback for X university. He has a buddy that he played in high school that plays for Y university. His coach could be like, wow, I sure like that, X kid. And then Y, I'm losing myself in the algebra here. But my point is, a coach could tell a kid, hey, wink, wink, nod, nod. I like your buddy. He's good at football. Could you imagine him playing for us? And then the buddy's like, oh, hey, man, you should come play at. I lost myself in the analogy. My point is, there's a million loopholes. Right. Rutgers is not getting involved. Not Rutgers, sorry. The NIL collective, headed by John Newman, appears to be headed only at Rutgers athletes. To your point, for example, a kid like Caleb McConnell. Caleb McConnell, who's between playing probably overseas, he's probably not going to play in the NBA or G League because he wasn't invited to either combine. Is he considering playing overseas for 5 figures? Or this is a hypothetical, can a group of Rutgers fans in the collective string together similar money for make him come back for another year? These are situations where it would be beneficial.
Is it a hypothetical, or is it? I mean, that's honestly, that makes a lot of sense. Perhaps someone should be working on that deal.
I am speaking hypothetically. I don't know about you. I am speaking hypothetically. Right. But yes, that is a situation where something like this would warrant, and that every other school in the country has something like this to a much bigger degree, but Rutgers needed it to be in the game.
Right. Yeah. Pat, I'm curious from what your perspective, having just been on the front lines in high school sports, what is the viewpoint from these deals from the high level high school football player now?
Oh man, it's such a great question.
Are they talking about it? If they're not talking about it,
absolutely, they're talking about it. No question. We should absolutely start there. They are absolutely talking about it. It's going to be an invasive issue, just like it is on college sports. Certainly, no question. I did an article on one kid who is the best wrestler in the state, and he's probably one of the best football players too. And it's just in terms of like, it was a pennies kind of deal, but it was historic in the sense that it was the first ever for a high school athlete. And basically it was a company called Eat Clean Bro. You might see the advertisements on the turnpike, and they're like a meal prep service. And this company was basically giving a sponsorship deal to this high school athlete, who was a heavyweight, by the way, to say like, hey, promote our meal prep service, and we'll pay you, 10% of every new subscription that comes in with your name attached. So in terms of actual making money, it's not happening in high school sports just yet. Could a Jabril Peppers or a big time person like that really change that? Absolutely. There's no question.
But are those kids looking for it from college? I mean, they're looking for it at the next level.
It's the same way that kids look at recruiting and the stars and rivals and things like that. It's on the forefront of every kid's mind that I should be doing this. Yeah. Why hasn't this unfolded for me?
He's a 4-star. Why am I not a 4-star? Yeah, that
exactly.
Kind of thing,
right? So there's no question that this is going to be a big thing, and also take I don't want to say amateurism because that's the wrong word, but the innate sense of high school sports, like what it's supposed to be about, going to school and hanging out with your friends after and learning to be a better person and learning like those things just don't exist in high school sports anymore because of this whole type of me attitude and these kind of things. So it's really a big issue in a lot of ways.
Fascinating stuff. All right, so let's dive into true or false. Pat, you know how this works. If you listen to enough of our podcast to understand that we, in the middle of the show, do this ridiculous gimmick here. I'm really not sure exactly how it got started or why we keep doing it, but it's part of the format now. And damn it, we can't change. So
format sticks. And the point is, I don't explain why. I just say true or false, right?
Exactly. Yes. Only then at the end can we then discuss it. All right. I'm glad you're up to speed. Okay, here we go. True or false? Gavin Wimsett will start the season opener against Boston College. Let's get you on the record. Fonseca, true or false?
True.
Oh, Pat, true or false?
False.
False. I'm tiebreaker too. I'm going false as well. True or false? Next question. The women's job at Rutgers is still a hugely desirable one. Expect a Pat Hobbs home run hire. Brian, true or false?
I'll go true.
Okay. Pat?
True, absolutely.
All right. I'm going to go false here, and I'll explain in a minute why I'm saying false. True or false? Caleb McConnell will return to Rutgers for one more season. Fonseca, what do you think?
True.
Wow. Okay. Pat?
True. Sure.
Double true. All right. Yeah. I mean, I would have given it 2% odds when the season ended, but I guess it's moved up a little bit. I'm still going to go false for now. For all the panic, true or false? For all the panic, Steve Peichel is on the verge of solving his roster problem through the transfer portal. Fonseca, did Steve Peichel figure this out? True or false?
I'll go false here.
All right, Pat.
False as well.
Yeah, I have to go false. You can't replace Ron Harper Jr. through the portal. All right, true or false? Rutgers will make the Final Four in one of the lacrosses, or is it lacrosse? Lacrosses. Fonseca, true or false? We going to the Final Four, one of these two?
Cross-eye sounds like a French guy talking about cross-eyed people. I will go false.
Pat, true or false?
Wax and lax and false.
I'm going true. Men's lacrosse is going to get there. They got a good draw based on the fact that every Ivy League team's in it. What would I possibly know about that? All right. Finally, true or false? Rutgers is a baseball school. Fonseca, true or false?
False.
False. Pat?
Baseball field school. How about that? Turf shout out, plant biology.
That's good. They're good. Cook College is going to be so grateful that you're on the podcast. I'm going true. Come on. This is why I put this in here. I was at the baseball game. I was down. You were there too. There are 3 people at this. There were 47 people at this game. Just at the same the series finale against Maryland, Monday afternoon game. Obviously, that was the reason why there are not a lot of people there. People cannot just step away from work. I was there. Fonseca was there, and Todd Frazier was there. Right? That was out of the 47 people in the crowd. A pretty good scene. They did not win the series. They are still in first place in the Big Ten. But I guess the situation now is, Brian, that Maryland can catch them at this point. Is that kind of where we stand?
Correct. So Maryland has 6 more games to play. Rutgers has 3 because Rutgers has not had its bye week yet. If Rutgers sweeps Michigan in the final series, they are in position to win only if Maryland loses, I believe, 2 of their last 6 games. My math might be incorrect, but the point is Rutgers still controls its own destiny for a share of the Big Ten regular season title, but not the outright title. They needed to win on Monday.
No matter what happens, it's a tremendous story. You got to give Steve Owen that program's been in the doldrums since Todd Frazier left, essentially. I mean,
agreed. It's definitely a fascinating story in that we've mentioned this before. They might break the 40 win mark and not make the NCAA tournament.
I don't believe that though.
They're on the bubble. Again, I am no bracketology expert in baseball. It's not my wheelhouse. But you look at the projections, they are like
you're not going to dig up the net rankings for baseball now, are you going to? You're going to get what is it? What is the freaking do? Does Ken Palm have a baseball site? You're not going to nerd us out here.
They have RPI.
You are going to nerd us out.
Rutgers has the second worst RPI of any team in the Big Ten aside from Purdue. Listen,
how is it possible? They're 16-4 in the Big Ten
because the Big Ten stinks.
Oh God,
they played a bad non-conference schedule. And look, again, I'm not part of the baseball committee. I don't know what factors are going in here. All I'm telling you is people that know more baseball than I do have Rutgers on the bubble. So again, I would say this: it would be an unbelievable thing if you win 40 baseball games in like a 50-game season and you don't make the tournament. I don't think a team in the MAC would deal with that issue. So I don't know, but it will be at worst a fascinating situation to follow.
I'm going to tell you this, and this is like my plug for Rutgers baseball. I enjoy. I mean, they hit a lot of home runs, and more importantly than that, the pace of the game is just wonderful. It's like a revelation. They throw the ball back to the pitcher, and he pitches the ball. I know this is like my complaint with baseball and Major League Baseball is it takes 3 minutes for that to happen before every pitch. I mean, it is so refreshing. And I know, Pat, I don't know how much high school baseball you cover. I'm sure this is what it's like on every level, but I have not seen a lot of college baseball over the years. Just to sit there and I wanted to call up Manfred and say, hey, dude, I'm watching a baseball game. This is possible. It was fun. And it's a nice, the park is obviously this, like, they need a lot of renovations down there to make that a Big Ten stadium. It's not really a stadium now at all, but it was a fun game. I'll highly recommend it.
Listen, your time's important, Steve. You can't be wasting it. Certainly. That's why high school softball is the greatest sport to cover on
Earth. Like 47 minutes, those games?
It's average time of approximately 46.5 minutes. One pitcher strikes everybody out, and you're out of there with a 1-0 game.
Every time, right? That was like that at the Olympics, too. The Olympic softball was the same way. You cover one of those games, you'd be done in it was beautiful. All right, what were the other topics we wanted to cover in the true or false? All right, so you both think Caleb McCall is coming back. Brian, you're closer to the situation. I mean, give us an update. Like, when would that happen? Would it be after the draft, I guess? And is there something behind the scenes going on to kind of make that the reality?
So the deadline to pull out of the NBA draft process and stay in school is June 1st. So it would be within the next couple of weeks. Steve Pike is holding out a scholarship for Caleb McCall to return. He has not been pursuing a heavy amount of guards or wings in the portal. He hasn't been pursuing many people out of the portal, period. Right. But the point is, he has not actively pursued someone to replace McConnell. McConnell was not invited to either the NBA or the G League combines, which is not a huge surprise, but it is another indication that he's not at the point where he can play professionally in the United States. So now his decision is going to be between coming back to Rutgers for another year, potentially picking up some NIL money, picking up another degree, or going to play somewhere in Europe, which is fine. Plenty of Rutgers players have gone there. Corey Sanders just signed a deal to play in the Dominican Republic. Akwasi Abo is playing in France. Mike Williams playing in England. It's great basketball to be played there, right? But I reckon that between those two situations, coming back to Rutgers seems like the quote unquote best option for him. So I would be surprised if he didn't come back for what it's worth. I think he's as close to a lock to being on the roster as he can be until he officially announces he's coming back.
All right. Quickly update us who Pike did get him. It's one of the better players in the portal and is still having people on campus. Update us on what's going on with that.
Right. So he got Cam Spencer, a guard out of Loyola, Maryland, which plays in the Patriot League, the same league as Lafayette. Not to trigger Rutgers fans in the middle of their morning commute to work, but he is an elite scorer, great shooter, recovering from a hip injury that kind of hurt him for the last year and a half or so. But if he returns to his freshman year form, he was shooting 40% on threes, which is an absurd clip. I think the only Rutgers player in the past decade that shot better than him was Miles Mack, who was an underrated player, by the way. Rutgers has a scorer, a shooter that they have been looking for years. He's not Ron Harper Jr. He can't score at all three levels. He's not as physical. He might not be as good of a defender, but he's a great get out of the portal. Probably one of the 15 or 20 best prospects in the portal. And they're not done. Like you mentioned, they hosted Kyle Lofton, who is a great guard out of St. Bonaventure on Monday. Doesn't look like they're going to land him, but getting him on campus.
Where's he going to go?
I don't know that for a fact, but I don't think that he's going to end up at Rutgers for what it's worth.
Okay.
Rutgers could probably use another big.
But like a 4, right? Don't they need someone who
you would think so, right? I have not heard or seen any reporting on them pursuing one out of the portal.
Mm-hmm.
So they might just rock with Cliff Omori and Dean Reber at the 5 and 4, and Andre Hyatt, Moat Mag. They do have guys there. It's just
right.
And they have a lot of guards, and they're hosting another point guard on Monday. Will they be playing more small ball? I don't know. The roster construction is very interesting. Once it's finalized, we can get a better idea. Last year they got Ralph Agee in July, so these things are never really over. But as it stands now, it seems like a much more guard-heavy rotation this year.
Okay.
But yeah, the portal's not done. We shall see.
All right, and just to close up the true or false, I did have a false on whether or not they're going to get a home run hire from Pat Hobbs. I think people view the home run hire as getting like a Courtney Banghart or some of the high level elite coaches. I don't think that that's going to be the direction this goes in. I'm guessing they're going to get someone who's more of someone on the way up, which is good. Which is, I think, Pat Hobbs has proven that through many of his hires, and he's had about 16 of them now. It's just crazy at Rutgers. That could be a formula for getting some success there. And it's also one way where they don't have to pay Vivian Stringer money. So that was my false on that one. I think that covers all of our true false topics. Did I miss anything, guys? No. Mm-hmm. All right, let's dive into some Rutgers Insider questions. As always, I want to thank you guys for continuing to subscribe to our Insider service, getting text messages soon from all of us, including Lanni, who just apparently asked for access to the account so he can text you at all hours of the day as well. Some good questions this week. Since we were just on basketball, let's go there. All right, so why is Rutgers not pursuing a 4-5 type? Wolfberg is a redshirt candidate and Reber is a beanpole. Are we really going to go with Hyatt and Mag at the 4? And why is Oscar Palmquist not in the portal after 3 years in the program? He still doesn't contribute. Ouch. That's kind of all right. So give me your sense on that, Fonseca. I mean, he obviously it's not the first time that he has shown faith in the guys he develops in the program. It's Steve Pikiell's thing, right?
Steve Pikiell is a loyal guy for sure. It's been pretty obvious in his time at Rutgers. For what it's worth, the staff loves Oscar Palmquist. They really believe there's something there. He hasn't gotten much time on the court because he's playing behind Ron Harper, who was the 11th All-American in program history. Yep. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there probably was some more minutes for him to play. I don't completely buy that as the total excuse. Could have played the 3, and he did play at times. He had a good shooting clip. His defense could use some work. But the reason why he didn't transfer, the staff loves him, has a lot of faith in him. As for the 4 or 5, we kind of touched on it on the last section. They could still pick up a forward in the portal. The portal isn't closed per se, but they could also roll, a guard heavy lineup, go small. They also have, Moat Mag, Oscar Palmquist. They have bodies to roll at the 4. And then as we saw, Dean Reber can play the 5 as well. So there is some roster flexibility there. Just a matter of, how Pikiell wants to roll with it. So, and Wolfolk, I still agree that he probably is going to redshirt. He does seem a bit too raw to play right away, but maybe they see something in him. I don't. Who knows? That is to be seen.
And if Keelan McConnell comes back, he plays bigger than his position too. I mean, this is like I think that makes a world of difference, obviously, on everything, every level. If he's a 32, 35 minute a game guy. So got to keep that in mind that might change the perspective.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
All right. Next question. What's the deal with the Ambrosio transfer? This is a Rutgers kicker, Valentino Ambrosio. Great point. It seems like he's gotten plenty of playing time. Where is he rumored to be going? I don't know that we have the answer to the second part of that question. Someone's got to kick, though. Guy Fava still on the roster. Is that his job now, Pat? What do you think's going to happen here?
I do think it is Guy Fava, who actually has a very similar story to Valentino Ambrosio. It was more of a soccer kid that came out for football as a senior at Don Bosco, really excelled right away, and then kind of worked his way into, a role at Rutgers. So I'm almost reading this a little bit from an outsider. Obviously, this is no insider perspective just yet, but I'm reading into it a little bit that maybe Fava was going to be competing for the starting job anyway. And maybe that's why Valentino Ambrosio is on the way out, or is out for that matter. Where he's going, check back on that one.
right? That kind of it does. Obviously with Adam Korsak in his 17th year as punter, that does change things. The kicking situation is a little less stable than it was before, but it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. All right. More questions from our insiders. Here's one for basketball, one for you, Fonseca. Besides shooting, what made Cam Spencer a priority target from Pike? That's from Alex from Marlboro.
I can say that Cam Spencer is Pike in miniature in a way. When I talked to him, I got him on the phone shortly after his commitment was publicized. And I felt like I was talking to a young Steve Peichel, all about basketball, strictly business. The guy does not have a social media account and anything, not Twitter, Facebook, Instagram,
Really?
TikTok, whatever. He says he just doesn't, it's not part of his life. He doesn't need it.
Good God, he should be doing a TED talk. Forget playing basketball for Rutgers. Good grief, get this guy a book deal.
I imagine as soon as he told Steve that he
it was over, right?
Committable on the spot, right? But yeah, he fits personality wise. What Steve Pike looks for in a player, guy who's hardworking, wants to play basketball, focus on basketball, is not about the phones and the social media and all this nonsense. And he's pretty good at basketball too, so that's a kicker there.
Steve Peichel is great about the phones. It's like this is inside baseball for fans, but I swear, like I would say, 10 of the last, the last 10 times I've talked to him, 3 of them he's mentioned athletes being on their phone. Like just the phones don't help. Like that would be his. If he could do a public service announcement about the screen time for young parents, he would be the perfect person to do it. He's kind of obsessed with it, which is funny. It's great. All right, where the hell was I? All right, here's a good one for you, Pat. What do you think about a future Garden State Classic basketball tournament during Thanksgiving or Christmas with all 8 D1 teams, i.e. Rutgers, Seton Hall, Princeton, the rest of them? I mean, it's a great idea. The coaches will never go for it, but it's a great idea.
That's exactly what I thought. Great idea. Sounds amazing on paper. Who wouldn't want to see it, especially after what St. Peter's did? But
Sure.
It just seems the logistics never seem to work in favor of these games. And some of the premier coaches have reportedly dodged other teams. And certainly we've heard that come out the last couple of months and stuff.
No reportedly about it. Yeah.
Reportedly, allegedly. Yeah. But yeah, I think everyone would want to see that. And hey, how about Princeton too, taking their shot at a big time school that they've
of course
been probably, they're always waiting for that chance. So
right.
I would love to see it. I think all of us would too.
We'd love to see it, but better chance that snowball's chance than help that one. All right. And here's one from Matt and Randolph. Pat Hobbs got a nice contract extension. We haven't even mentioned that yet in the podcast, but he did re-up his deal. I think 6 years or 5-6 years. The sports program seems to be performing well on the field and in the classroom, but how does his performance and pay compared to his Big Ten peers? I think it's in the contract, Brian. Just check me if I'm wrong, because I was on vacation that week, but that he will be paid at the median, I believe, which is about right, which would be a raise for where he is now. I think he's been at the lower end of the Big Ten for a while. Overall, though, you can't. I mean, look. I mean, you got to give Pat Hobbs credit, and I talked to him at length at the baseball game I was at yesterday for a column that's going to be this. Look for it this week, coming up this week. I mean, I think he sees it as a chance to, in a lot of ways, finish what he started, and this is a rare time for Rutgers when they've got stability in all 4 of the jobs. Like if you went back 5 years ago and you looked, or not like 5, a few years ago, and you looked at the football, basketball president's job and the athletic director's job, there was a moment when Rutgers had the wrong person in all 4 of those jobs. Like you wonder why they couldn't get out of the wrong way. Now you can make the argument they've got the right person in all 4 of those jobs. And you've got Jonathan Holloway catching punts. Had to talk about a guy who gets it, catching punts from Adam Korsak at the spring game as your university president. Hobbs has established himself as an AD. Certainly Shiano has proven he can do it. Steve Peichel ended the NCAA tournament drought. I forget what the question was, but yeah, that this is why you're getting an extension for Pat Hobbs. I guess Fonseca, you did the story on it. Was there something in the contract that stuck out to you?
So the contract was essentially the same as he had before. And there was a couple of changes. Yes, to your point earlier, he has a base salary, but there will be a collection of the available salaries of Big Ten ADs, and he will make the median. His salary will be adjusted to the median if it is lower, right? So he'll be making the median of publicly available Big Ten. Northwestern isn't including that, obviously, because they're private. And but yes, he will be making at worst the middle of the pack in the Big Ten. And his clause used to roll over so that he always had a 3-year deal through 2025. So every third year it would re-up. Now it is a 1-year basis. So every year, I think beginning in 25, it'll or in 28, in one of those years, when it hits January, it'll re-up every 6 months. We have it in the story. Check it out, NJ.com.
And that makes more sense for Rutgers, to be honest with you, than having 2 years on top. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a smarter contract for everyone involved. Yeah, absolutely.
Correct.
All right, final point. There's one less of a question from Tony and Lawrence than a comment. With Pike's recruiting Papa Conte from Connecticut, I'd like to suggest a new fat sandwich in his honor. The Fat Papa Conte, lobster meat, drawn butter, diced pork roll, and chicken fingers in a steamed, vertically sliced roll. Okay, I mean, what do you think, Pat? Is that something you would get if you come stumbling out of?
I'd be all over it. I would be all over it.
Is there a lobster meat?
Come on, that's the New England connection right there. You gotta love it.
Is there a lobster meat fat sandwich? Can't.
I wouldn't eat it. I wouldn't trust it. I mean, I would still eat it, but I wouldn't trust it. I'd be nervous the whole time.
What is your go-to if you're standing?
Fat Mojo.
Fat Mojo.
That is
what is on the Fat Mojo?
Chicken fingers, mud sticks, French fries, but it's honey mustard.
Why would you have chicken fingers on a sandwich, though? That doesn't. I don't.
Have you ever been to the grease truck, Steve?
Oh boy, this is going to be bad. But no, I have never had a fat sandwich.
Whoa!
I know what? that's a big declaration coming at the end of this. I never have. No,
wow.
And you guys have seen me. You obviously know it's not a health. It's not because I just really looking out for my well-being and health. You've traveled with me on the road. You know that's the problem. Yeah.
You and the reader can split a fat Papa Conte together next time you're at Rutgers.
There you go. All right, maybe that'd be my next project. I'll steal something from Pete Genovese and rank the fat sandwiches. There you go. All right, that's a good. Tell Manahan expenses are coming in for that one. All right. Anything else, guys? Any last words? I think.
Yeah, I just can't imagine guys walking down Easton Avenue with lobster meat all over their face after a night out. That's a step too far for me. I've seen some disgusting things on Rutgers campus as a student. I can't. That might top the list. Honestly, it's a bit much for me.
That's beautiful. I'd like to hear some of the most disgusting things you guys have seen as Rutgers students. That would be a podcast in itself.
That could be a July episode when everything's slowing down. I'll get a list going.
Just in time for the shore season as well. Perfect
beach listen. The waves are flowing. You're hearing about other things flowing out. So that'd be great.
Something for all you guys to look forward to, perhaps in the next Rutgers rant. I don't know what we'll be talking about. We'll be back soon to talk more Rutgers sports. Thanks everyone listening. Thanks again to Keith Norton for the new introduction, to Devco for sponsoring this nonsense, and to both you, Pat, and to Brian. Thanks for being here. We'll talk soon.